Bonjour, je vous prie de bien vouloir m'accompagner.
Good morning, everybody. Please join me for the taking of refuge and generating bodhicitta.
Sanje chodan tsoje chonam la chanchu pardo dane chamsu che dage jinsu jibe sanam che rola benjira sanje drobar shu sanje chodan tsoje chonam la chanchu pardo dane chamsu che dage jinsu jibe sanam che rola benjira sanje drobar shu sanje chodan tsoje chonam la chanchu pardo dane chamsu che dage jinsu jibe sanam che rola benjira sanje drobar shu simje tamje dewa tan devi jodan dembar churchi dungar tan dungar chi jodan chawar churchi dungar mebe dewa tamba tan mindrawar churchi Nirin chadan tan charve danyom chenpo la nebar churchi simchen tamche dewa tan devi jodan dembar churchi dungar chi jodan chawar churchi dungar mebe dewa tamba tan mindrawar churchi Nirin chadan tan charve danyom chenpo la nebar churchi simchen tamche dewa tan devi jodan dembar churchi dungar chi jodan chawar churchi dungar dewa tamba tan mindrawar churchi Nirin chadan tan charve danyom chenpo la nebar churchi Chomden de jambe yang la chan tsar lo kange lo dredim nye drendar nye dara namda ram sarve chi nye tungun chi shin si ji ni je tokara lebam tse kanda si be tsarar mari mentama dongar che sarve rozo kyun la puji tar tse yan la chu chu yang den song Rudara chero nyumo nilo leje charo roze chen Mari munser dongre nyugu chinye chunze raje nam Dene tajen saju tarsun yentene lizo gerse tuvi ku Jura chudan chunyi jendri Dalu munser jambe yang la du Zeden chuje chenra vesre che dalu temo memba ramsarane Gadan tenju shunlu tokba ye lo zhe bobe nangwa zar to sor Nasam jume shera parar jen ma jimen ga namge ngo ni soso rang ri shi ju yurwa Tuzum gerwe yomla chan tsar lo Ainsi ayant vu
Thus I have heard, once the Glorious One was residing at Fultos Peak in Rajgriha together with a great assembly of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Glorious One abided evenly in the samadhi of the aspects of phenomena called appearance of the profound. Also, at the same time, the noble of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, beholding the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, observed that even the five aggregates are empty of substance. Then, by the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the noble of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva: how should a son of the lineage or a doctor of the lineage train, who wishes to practice the profound perfection of wisdom? Addressed in this way, the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said this to the venerable son of Saradvati, Shariputra, the son of the lineage or the daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the profound perfection of wisdom, should observe in this way. They should view correctly that even the five aggregates are empty of substance. Matter is emptiness. Emptiness is matter. Emptiness is no other than matter. Matter is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, perception, conditioning, consciousness are empty. Thus, Shariputra, all phenomena are emptiness. Without characteristic, not produced, not ceased, stainless, not free from stain, undiminished, and filled. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no matter, no feeling, no perception, no conditioning, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no notice, no touch, no phenomenon, no eye constituent until no mental constituent, up to and including no mental consciousness constituent, no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance until no aging and death up to and including no extinction of aging and death. There is no suffering, origin, cessation or past, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because bodhisattvas have no attainment, they rely on and abide in the perfection of wisdom. Their minds having no obscuration, they have no fear, and passing entirely beyond falsity, they completely pass beyond sorrow. All the Buddhas who abide in the three times by relying too on the perfection of wisdom have fully awakened into the unsurpassable, true, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom is the mantra of great insight, the mantra of the unsurpassable, the mantra peering with the peerless, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies our suffering, because it does not deceive. It should be known to be true. The mantra of perfection of wisdom is stated: Tedhyata Om Gate Gate Parasam Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhisoha. Shariputra, in that way, Bodhisattva Mahasattva Sutra in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the glorious one arose from that samadhi and praised the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva. Well done, son of the lineage, it is like that. Son of the lineage, it is like that. Just as you have taught it, the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced. Even the Tathagatas admire it. After the glorious one had thus spoken, the venerable son of Sharadvati, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, and all those surrounding and the entire world with its god, humans, demigod, and Gandharva in admiration praise the words of the glorious ones. Great. So we're gonna come back on the text. So I will shortly remind you the general structure of the text. There were 3 parts. So I didn't comment in detail because it was said before, and we defined all the words and all from the prologue. And then the second part is about the teaching that is given 2 times. First in an elaborated way, and then in a concise way, in a short way, through the mantra. So among these 2 parts, we were in the presentation of the teaching, if I can say so, the elaborated part or aspect of the teaching that presents, as we saw before, and that explicitly presents emptiness of all phenomena, from matter to omniscience. So all phenomena can be divided in 2 classes: the class of stained phenomena that belong to confusion, and the phenomena free of confusion. All those phenomena are said to be free, are free of swabhava, any like being by itself. So usually we use the word emptiness. That of course doesn't mean that there's nothing, a nothingness, but it means the absence of something existing by itself. That is thing that is usually attributed to all phenomena, as we think they exist by themselves. So here, this is the explicit teaching, and the non-explicit teaching is the non-explicit part is realizing emptiness from the five paths. So from accumulation or equipment until the beyond training. So those are the five paths. We saw in the text the parts about each one of those paths until the normal learning. So we saw briefly what we mean when we say emptiness. So the being by itself that is reified, the fact of reifying phenomena to attribute them a being that would exist. If we look for it, we don't find it. Through examination, we can't ever grasp a being by itself. So grasping the, an I, an ego, is a kind of false projection of reality. So in order to show that, we took some arguments that we saw, for example, a bit deeply in it. It's a bit deeply exposed in the Madhyamika teaching, thought by Nagarjuna and his disciples. It's called Madhyamika. So we saw the analysis with looking at a thing and all its parts, and I think we also saw briefly the argument of one and multiple, and most of all we looked at the examination of substantial causality, and we saw that through those examinations, if we look well, we will end up to the fact that we can't really grasp a being by itself. It can't be observed, it can't be found. So in that way, we have to understand here that that phrase we saw yesterday, the fourfold deepness. So matter is empty. So matter is translated from Sanskrit or rupa, or from Tibetan suk. It's the first aggregate, it's the most manifest one. So it's the physical aggregate, it's matter, and that one is free of being by itself. Not because it's just a Buddhist thought or a believing, or that Buddha would have said that we shouldn't think that matter has existence. It's just that at the end, through examination, we can't find being by itself, existing by itself. So we can also say that matter is free from substantial characteristics. We can't find or observe any being existing by itself, whether in the past, in the present, or in the future. The being by itself of the past is non-observable, the future one is non-observable as well, and the present is non-observable as well. in a way that we confine a single instant of duration that would have the characteristic of a being, meaning something that is by itself, that doesn't change, that doesn't depend on anything else. This is not observable, that can't be found. And given that fact, a being existing by itself is non-observable, can't be found anywhere and in anything. Therefore, the word emptiness is conventionally used. In that way, emptiness is matter is emptiness. So being by itself makes it that for us matter seems to appear, but for that matter to exist in the way it appears in a distinctive way, actually it appears to us, and we think, because it appears to us, we think it's there, it exists, but for real, if we really look for it, we really examine that, we can't find it. That's why we say matter is emptiness. However, that emptiness is also of the same nature than matter. This emptiness can't be observed in the same way as substantiality. The substantiality of matter, emptiness by itself has no substance, can't be observed, and in that way we say emptiness is matter. So you can see it in the text. So emptiness is matter in a way that emptiness is not an entity that would exist separately, independently from matter. So final reality of matter is emptiness, and emptiness doesn't exist independently from matter. In that way, in that sense, emptiness is matter. So then, and then the next phrase, which is quite the same essentially. So it's taught briefly, and one is more explicit then, which is that phrase: emptiness is not other than matter, matter is not other than emptiness. So that thing that is the that can be said, meaning here that it can be expressed. Matter is so matter is the so matter is emptiness is inexpressible, and emptiness is nothing else than matter. So in that way, emptiness is no other than matter. What is the inexpressible emptiness is not either something else that would exist by itself separately from matter, and in that sense matter is nothing else than emptiness. So that same analysis also goes to the four aggregates, the four psychic aggregates, which are feelings, perception, conditioning, and consciousness, that are also empty. Emptiness, they are free from a being existing by themselves. Then if we come to the next part, which is called the Eightfold Profoundness. So here we come to the next part. There, Shariputra, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, not produced, not ceased, stainless, not free from stain, undiminished, unfilled. So here there are eight points. Emptiness, without characteristic, not produced, not ceased, stainless, not free from stain, undiminished, unfilled. So these are the 8 points that express deepness. So here, deepness, profoundness means something that is something that is subtle, something that is deep, in a way that we can't access to it right away. It's deeper, it's more subtle, which is the mode through which phenomena manifest, so which is their final reality. So there's here for Shariputra it said, when we say the phenomena, it means the pure and the stained phenomena. Afflicted phenomena, meaning afflicted phenomena linked to confusion, which are the number of 53, and the pure phenomena free from affliction are 55 phenomena. So all those phenomena form matter, the first of the 5 aggregates, until the knowledge of all aspects, omniscience. All those phenomena are emptiness. Meaning here that they are free from the characteristic of their own being by itself. So they aren't established by themselves. Matter, appearances aren't established by themselves, as we said. So here, this is what we call the Eightfold Depth or Profundity, which is concluded from the preceding sentence, also what we just said before. Here the consequences are kind of given here, or made more explicit. So phenomena are emptiness, meaning that they are free from characteristics, without characteristics, the characteristic of having a being existing by itself. They are not produced, meaning they are not born, meaning when we are born there is something being born that wasn't existing before. And not ceased here means to be seized. Here not ceased means there is no present existence of something that will exist before. So here, let's say production and cessation, or birth or cessation, conventionally exist, relatively exist, but ultimately in the last analysis we can't find them. As we talked about yesterday, when we talk about causality, we can't find something that would have been produced before that will substantially be born. We can't either establish a substantial causality, something that will really exist substantially and that will also substantially produce something. And because we can't really find birth, a production, the emergence of something that will really have something by itself, therefore we can't find its cessation. Consequently, we can't find its cessation because birth and because death only exists because of birth. If the production or birth can't be established, therefore its cessation can't be established neither, because those two function together. That's why in this way it's said not produced, not ceased. And then the next part, not free from stain. Not free from stain, meaning here, because all phenomena are emptiness, they are not substantially stained by conditioned existence, by ignorance. Ignorance doesn't substantially establish reality. And because nirvana, the beyond suffering, absence of all confusion, is also free from being by itself, therefore phenomena are not free from stain. Therefore phenomena are not free from stain substantially, intrinsically. And then we have undiminished and unfilled. So ultimately, reality is never ever diminished by afflictions, wrong actions and all. Nothing can diminish it. So reality is not full of something. It's not ameliorated or made better by the good qualities ever. So this is what means undiminished here and fulfilled. So now we talked about that eightfold profundity or depth. So I will come back on that subject a little later. But first, if you have some questions, please ask them. So, hello Rinpoche. It was concerning the explanation of emptiness. You said yesterday or the day before, you said it quickly, but I can't remember how you get to that conclusion. Saying that I could hit a table and hurt myself, and that would prove the absence of existence of a table if I could hit it and hurt myself. And you didn't go so deeply in that reasoning, and I can't remember that. Can you make it more clear? So it's very simple here. If something exists, if we understand it well, so we have to understand. First, we have to understand well the meaning of being by itself. If we are confused between experience and being by itself. For us, ordinary, the simple fact of living something proves that it exists, that is something independent. and with that idea of being by itself, it's quite associated with the idea of with the cognitive bias of permanence. We think it really exists, it's permanent. We think it exists separately, independently. So we are confusing experiencing something because we feel and we experience something. For us, it's the proof it exists. But we also here we have to face that sense. What does it mean to be being? When we say being, it exists, would mean something that remains the same. So it would be something permanent, something that it is by itself, exists by itself. So somehow it would be something dependent and that can't suffer any change, that can't go through any change. And if it's so, it can't accomplish any function. Because a function implies changement, change, interaction, causality, co-produced phenomena, co-produced things. So then it means a table couldn't fulfill the function of being a table, and I couldn't hit myself there because it's a table, and being so, it can't interact with anything else, because if I hit the table changes, it doesn't remain the same. It's a phenomena that is inside the causality, co-produced phenomena. It's not existing by itself, it interacts with other things. So the fact that a phenomena can manifest and be effective doesn't show that they have an existence by themselves, a being by themselves. It's actually the opposite. It shows that they don't have an existence or a being by itself. So I don't really understand why hitting the table and hitting the table and it hurts me, shows me it's impermanent. I don't understand. So before hurting yourself in the table, and from the moment you hit the table, and afterwards the table is not the same before you hit it, during and after. When you hurt your fingers in the table's wood, the wood changes, and then you hit it and there is blood and there is a hole in the table. It's not the same anymore. So if the table was, it would be exactly the same, isn't it? So it's not because you don't observe a change roughly, but more subtly, it will be something unmovable, something. Yeah, it will be something fixed, so it can't create, product, be effect, cause or condition because it's fixed or frozen. But fundamentally, our experience has something dynamical. There is a beginning, something, a change. So here we can see that our grasping really doesn't correspond to reality. So being by itself can't be found we can't find, and because we can't find it doesn't mean there is no appearances and phenomena. So in that way, matter is emptiness, free from fake attributions, but emptiness is matter. Good morning, Rinpoche. So to go on the subject of emptiness, concerning the teaching you're giving us, and in a more general way, that teaching feels real, and unfortunately we can try to understand it, try to remember it and come back on it later. But if we think about emptiness, concerning that teaching, if we think about emptiness by itself, how should we understand the application of emptiness and the absence of being in the teaching? Of course, as I was saying before, the teaching is not like gathering knowledge to put in the drawer as we usually do with all usual knowledges. Here, the knowledge that is taught in order to help us eliminate ignorance in our mind. So if we take it as we usually do, reifying it, thinking it's this and that, and putting it in correlation or together with all our other concepts, if we do so, at the end we just do nothing as than we usually do. So we just reduce knowledge as an object of knowledge itself and something that we just put in a drawer, like a collection. So here, this understanding is meant to bring us beyond reification. So when we don't find being by itself of phenomena, what happens? When we don't find it, grasping is eliminated, and when grasping is eliminated, does consciousness ceases? No, we are not annihilated. So the reality of consciousness as it was and has always been, which is nothing like being, non-being, and all, this is not stopping. This is our original reality, primordial reality, and finally we get access to it, because through analysis and thought we've come to an end of that thought, thinking. We've been to the limits. We've been able to go beyond, to see without seeing. Yeah, to see without seeing, without grasping, which is a way of understanding free from any confusion, projection, reality, and ignorance. And in that observation, there is no ignorance, there is no self-grasping, other grasping, desire, hatred, jealousy, pride. It's naturally free. Freedom is not something that we're going to produce. It's already present in our reality, the one we have to discover and actualize. So another question. Rinpoche, I don't really know how to express that, but I can see that there's always something I try to verify. I can't do without this. There is always something coming, thinking that, okay, if everything is emptiness, why do I see differences between a flower, a plant, the ground? If everything is emptiness, why isn't everything the same? Here is maybe because we think emptiness is something, we imagine emptiness is something like empty where there would be nothing. So all the variety of appearances are possible and manifest through co-produced phenomena. It is emptiness, the absence of a being by itself, attribution or denial that doesn't correspond to reality. So here thinking that, if everything was emptiness, I should then be able to see anything. Here would be denial. If you were saying that, it would be denial. So those are not good translation. In Tibetan we have korwa depa, which means to deny the possibility of variety and causality. So we think emptiness as nothingness, which are extremes. So emptiness actually cancels karma and causality. And here freedom can be gained. And karma is also imprisoning from our own ignorance. It applies on us as long as we are in ignorance. But if we actualize primordial wisdom and get free from all those grasping, we also get rid of karma, actually, karma functionings.
Oui, enfin je sais plus quel est.
So there was another question. Do you remember the order?
Rinpoche.
So Rinpoche is that consciousness free from all ignorance. Is it there that we can find the swabhava? It's very difficult for me with that definition of swabhava to give it a space that doesn't really exist. So swabhava, if we could find it, would be great, but we can't find it. It can't be found. So even the primordial wisdom or just wisdom have no swabhava. So swabhava, all in all, so being by itself is something that we fakely apply to reality, mistakenly apply to reality. So then we start to think there is me, there is other, I need to obtain this and that, I'm beautiful, I'm ugly, all those on concepts that we think are true. But we think those concepts are true, but we can't really find something objectively there. So we don't necessarily need to think, oh, there is a swabhava, so I need to find the swabhava. This is not needed. So we can speculate and look everywhere. We won't ever find it. So we can just let go.
Et une autre question là-bas, puis je sais pas.
Bonjour, ma question.
So, good morning. My question is about yesterday morning. You talked about the 4 observations, and I only wrote down 2. And when we talked about those 4 observations, you talked about the 3 wisdom and the 5 paths, and I got lost in that. So it was just simply vipassana, shamatha, and the finality of phenomena is an observation that comes to its end. So the first two are linked to Sambhara Marka and Prayoga Marka, and then we have the Darshana Marka, which is the observation that observes the limit of phenomena. It's in Tibetan, which I don't really know how to translate. And here the last one is enlightenment. So then when I talked about the 3 wisdom of listening or hearing, contemplating and practice, the 3 wisdom are mostly about the starting, the beginning of developing wisdom through hearing and contemplating, and then the wisdom that is acquired or obtained at the end of the analysis. That one is authentic wisdom that we really use to cultivate wisdom, and then it gets like more subtle, and then we get to the finality of that observation. So here the idea of vipassana and shamatha is actually, some people think wisdom is just the absence of thought, not having any thoughts or concept. We think this is wisdom. But of course we can be idiots and not having stupid and not having wisdom, or we could be completely lost and being in ignorance and having no wisdom. So in the beginning we need to discriminate things, phenomena. We can't get to wisdom without that. So at the end, here this is what we try to do. We think there is an I. We got what would be the characteristics of that I, and here we observe. Through observing, we can't find any I. Not being able to find an I doesn't mean you're grasping something new. It's seeing that all grasping, projection, artificial things that we were grasping are actually by itself eliminated, because we can't find it. So at the end of the analysis, we get to an understanding, a comprehension, an understanding. We see that we observe the inobservable, seeing without seeing, and being able to get to that point means we need to go first through discrimination process. So a systematical study that requires erudition, knowledge, and through the master instructions that bring us to examine the nature of mind. What is mind? Where does it come from? How does it work? So that kind of study is like we call discrimination study, and that is vipassana. And then we have shamatha. So shamatha is not shamatha without vipassana, which will be just maintaining peace. Here, shamatha in that concept means there is a non-discursive knowledge that we cultivate, and that knowledge that is without discrimination gets to the prayoga path. And gets to the observation of the limit of phenomena, and that will bring us to the path of wisdom. And in that way, this is non-discriminative knowledge that is cultivated until perfection, that is enlightenment, which is the end, the full actualization of wisdom. So this is if we talk about the 5 paths. So here it's to show you that the most important here is wisdom. Here many people think that what is special with Buddhism is that we meditate and we think about nothing, and we try to be calm and quiet and cultivating peace for peace is actually continuing a form of samsara, is creating the karma of immobility, miyowele in Tibetan, which is a kind of karma that creates rebirth in the rupa, arupya world, the form or formless realm, which are like, let's say, physical or non-physical realm, which are classified as deva or celestial beings, where life, length, and happiness is much greater than the one in the human realm. But the recognition, the understanding of the original nature of mind can't be actualized, though they are still under karma and all. And when the great karma are like fading away, and then they get to lower rebirth and all. So this is why in Buddhism what is essential, the main point, is wisdom. And that wisdom has to be carried, supported by, let's say, calm abiding or peace. So ignorance is constantly nourished by the fact, is constantly pushed by the fact that mind is distracted. That's why we are taught methods that first teach us shamatha, and then we are introduced to vipassana. And then we cultivate the union of vipassana and samatha, and we can also directly cultivate vipassana. And then on that basis, training on the union of vipassana and samatha. So there are different methods here. But the point I wanted to underline here is the importance of wisdom. Good morning, Rinpoche. Thanks for your teaching. So the Buddha was born. When the Buddha was born, he was 8, so he was already grown up. So Rinpoche said, "I don't know, I wasn't there." And the woman said, "I've heard he was already quite grown up, like quite tall, not like a small baby." So my question was, does the child already has this primordial wisdom within himself, in general, when a child is born, we kind of feel he's going to teach us a lot of things as parents. So here you're talking about the Buddha or children in general? So when children are usually born, I feel they already have that primordial wisdom within themselves. So to answer that question about Buddha's life or biography, there are different ways of presenting his life. And some when he was born, he was in confusion and he got enlightenment within that lifetime, which is a common presentation that really corresponds to our experience or perception. And then there is a glorified biography where Buddha would have already got enlightenment before his birth and just got into this world to manifest his activity and in order to give access to many beings to his activity and enlightenment. So there are different presentations and way to understand and analyze Buddha's life. And then there are more popular or mythological versions which are more symbolical of Buddha's life, where many things can seem like mythological because they don't correspond to our ordinary experience. For example, a child that would be born at the size of an 8-year-old boy. I don't remember the details so far. Then, concerning the children, like in general, we could think they are born with what you call primordial wisdom. So here actually primordial wisdom, everyone has it. All sentient beings have it. It's Buddha's nature. It's the nature of Buddha, the basis, original quality of mind. All sentient beings have it. Insects, Hitler had it. The most cruel people have it. The nice ones as well. Jesus Christ had it. Everyone has it. There's no one that doesn't have it. But is it recognized or not? This is what makes the difference, and whether you're free or not from samsara. So if you are born, it kind of shows that you didn't recognize it because it's a part of co-produced because karma and karmic imprints condition birth. So when children are born, they don't talk, they don't have elaborated concepts. But it doesn't mean they are contemplating reality or that they have knowledge or wisdom. It doesn't mean, because they can't talk, it doesn't mean they have it. Or like they have actualized it. But it doesn't exclude that some beings like the Buddha or some Bodhisattva can have that realization, and this is what we hear quite often in those extraordinary stories. So hello Rinpoche, I have a question concerning the emptiness of space and the word unconditioned that we hear in Abhidharma Kosha, which is used for space. Space is classified in unconditioned phenomena. So how to understand that word and also link to emptiness and all. So here it means absence of ignorance in all elements that condition the conditioned experience. So here at the end, all conditioned things are just happening because of our ignorance and our grasping. They aren't established independently, substantially in their reality. In reality, they are free from those conditions. In Tibetan, we say Loborwa, Adventist, which means like fake or making you deluded. So it's possible that we reify it, but that unconditioned here means there's nothing substantial that exists by itself and that is fixed or frozen. Otherwise, if it was the case, ignorance couldn't happen. So here, unstained, when we say unstained and not free from stain, this is what we meant. We will see it later. So we can read in different sutras that the enlightenment of hearers is also mistaken. Could you develop on that? It's not that the enlightenment of hearers is mistaken. It's just considered in the great vehicle as incomplete. Therefore, for example, full, complete enlightenment is described as something that isn't localized, that doesn't remain neither in samsara nor nirvana. So neither samsara, which is the fact that we reify matter, forms or appearances. And nirvana is understanding that reality, meaning that all these forms and matters have no existence by themselves, but that emptiness can somehow be reified. It's a little bit like the limit of the knowledge of the Shravaka, the hearer. The hearer realizes the non-self, the absence of self, but there is still a cognitive veil, a kind of reification that is that will really be free from any ignorance. So full enlightenment is beyond any kind of reification, in the sense of the most subtle veils of knowledge, the most subtle. So here what is said is that even if the sagesse the wisdom aspect is not full, we can be free from birth. This is nirvana. But the whole full potential of wisdom is not actualized. So Mahayana is said more direct because it brings us to the most full realization of wisdom and development of wisdom. The fullest realization of wisdom. Somehow the extreme of grasping substantiality, and on the other side the grasping of non-substantiality. It's free from these two. So the project in Dharma is that all sentient beings would get to enlightenment. Where I'm a little anxious is that admitting that all beings have reach full enlightenment, then what would happen? There is something inconceivable. I can't anticipate or imagine. I can't imagine what it will be.
Deux points, je dirais, d'une part.
So I would say there are 2 points here. One, the fact that we include all beings in our motivation and in practice doesn't include some kind of duty to all sentient beings. It's not something like a duty or you would be forced. It's something you want, and because you want, this is precisely that will save you yourself. This is what I expressed before. Because we cultivate Maitri, loving kindness, it eliminates any hatred from us. But if we can't express that loving kindness to all sentient beings without exception, without excluding any, and if we exclude one, we are actually punishing ourselves. Because we still allow our mind to have hatred or aversion. Because still having aversion to one single person is still aversion or hatred. So this has to be cultivated to all sentient beings without any exception. So this is an imperative for ourselves, for us to progress on the path. And this is the mean by which we can help the sentient beings. So enlightenment is not obtained because we would have liberated all sentient beings, but because we have eliminated all. It's rather because we eliminated all ignorance and wrong views from our own being. So what would happen if all beings were liberated? Thinking that is because we have attachment to our own conception of the world, time and all, and it's of the nature of suffering. And this is here to be free from that ignorance. Doesn't mean that we create new conditions. So here we think that enlightenment is a kind of new condition. Will we still eat, live 10, 20 or 30 years? We could try to make descriptions. Those are descriptions of paradise, and when we look at them, they look quite boring. In some cases, we even wonder if today's billionaires didn't get it even right now, even yet. So that description is a bit old. So any condition, whatever it is of the nature of suffering, if all beings would reach nirvana, it's the best they could ever get. And it's not equal to another experience, a conditioned experience. Any condition is of the nature of fiction, is of a fictive nature. So I have a bit of secondary question. Could we say of the Buddha of or Avalokiteshvara or all Buddhas, could we say that they are still humans? No. Bodhisattvas can manifest as humans, animals, gods, devas. They can still have a kind of condition. So here there are different ways of understanding enlightenment. Enlightenment is free of all those conditions. The Buddha is free of all those conditions, so he's free from being a human, an animal, or devour anything. But does it mean he can't affect, he can't act or do something to other beings? Actually, he can. He can be there, teach, other sentient beings can see him, and even they see him like a conditioned being. The Buddha himself is not limited by his condition. So my question here, the most important, is the following. Karmapa, if I understood well, talked about reincarnation, and he said it's a beautiful representation. So it was strange for me because I have a tape where Bardo is depicted like as a small movie with colors and all. So just before you said all phenomena have no birth or cessation, so I always heard that I'm not produced nor ceased. So you said that, and then you said the teaching itself is emptiness and a tool to understand. The teaching is a tool to liberate ourselves. So all that came to like a triangle to me, and it reminded me what Karmapa said, that everything is a nice representation, which I liked more. So Rinpoche said, maybe I didn't understand your question so well. So Karmapa, His Holiness Karmapa said it's a beautiful representation. But and just before you said all phenomena are not produced nor ceased. So I'm including myself in phenomena. And then after that person's question, you said the teaching itself is emptiness. The teaching itself is emptiness, and it's also a tool to liberate us. So I kind of made up that triangle between what said Karmapa and about the beautiful representation. So I think here we shouldn't confuse. Here we are expressing things, we use conventions, words. All those conventions are useful and accessible. So somehow realization of emptiness is something deep, difficult, and graspable, because it's beyond all our conventions. So when we look at that reality, convention can be beautiful, great and all, but they are still our convention and artificial, but still we are forced to use them, we have to use them. So that's what I was saying before, we have to use discrimination, use concepts, thinking that okay, concepts are conventional, they are by themselves, they have to be mistaken because they are concepts. But without those concepts, I couldn't understand emptiness. So we need those concepts, and those conventions will help us to go beyond conventions as well. So we shouldn't think, oh, finally I understood what is reincarnation, I understood something. Oh, it's just a convention, so I would need to abandon it. No. That understanding will take you further. And that was useful. So with that understanding, you can go deeper. So at some point, naturally, without needing to reject and understanding, you can go beyond understanding itself. You understand what is understanding and go beyond that. Okay, we're gonna have a short break because the translator might be tired. And we will meet in half an hour. Thank you. At 11:50.
Namdiye tamchi ziba nye toni nyebe dranam pamchi ni cheka na chi balap trubai siber solen rowan rowan. Sanje chodan soje chonam la chanchu pardo dane chamsu che dage jinsu jebe sonam che rola benchira sanje roba shu sanje chodan soje chonam la Dane jamsu che dage jinsu jibe sanam che rola benchira sanje roba shu sanje chodan soje chonam la chanju bardo dane jamsu che dage jinsu jibe sanam che Hanjin roba shu jumden de jambe yang la chan sai lo kange lo dre dim nye dren dre nye dra nam da ram sarve chi nye dung gun chi je si ji ni je do gara le bam ze Kanda sebe zara mari mundum dung ara chi sarve dro zo gyun la pu je tar se yang la chu ju yang den song dro dra che dro nyu mo ni long le je ja ro dro ze chen mari mun sar dung ara nyu go chi ni chun ze ra je na Döne ada chen sa ju tar sun yun dina lu zo gyar se to vyu go chu ra chu da chu ni jen da lu mun sar jam be yang la du se den chu ji chen ra vu zir chi Temu men baram sarane, kadang tingju shunglu toba ye, nudru bobe, tangwa tsar do sor. Donc, nous en étions donc sur la partie que l'on désigne par le terme de l'octuple profondeur. Donc, par conséquent, Shariputra, tous les phénomènes sans vacuité, ils sont sans caractéristiques, sans naissance, sans cessation, sans souillure, non dépourvus de souillure, sans diminution, non plein. Donc, euh, ces 8 points sont aussi parfois présentés comme comment dirais-je comment dirais-je comme présentant les 3 portes de la libération. Voilà le terme, 3 portes de la libération.
And the 3 doors are Shunyata, emptiness, Animita, Tsemamepa in Tibetan, which means without signs or characteristic, and Apranita, Ngunpamepa, the absence or the non wishes, literally, or maybe it could be desire. Yeah, non wishes. Nam Targosum, Mimoksha Mokam in Sanskrit and Nam Targosum in Tibetan. In Tibetan, the three doors of liberation. So the first two, you have all phenomena are emptiness, they are without characteristic. So here it's about the nature of reality. We can't find it a reality of self-existing. It has no reality, no general or specific characteristic that would correspond to something substantially existing. In that sense, those two present the door of liberation, that is emptiness, without not being produced, not ceased, stainless, not free from stain. Those four present the door of liberation, that is the absence of signs, the absence of aspects. In a sense that to be lost in samsara, ignorance is not established, and the way to liberation is not established neither. It has no reality. It doesn't exist by itself. And then undiminished and unfilled in the sutra means there is no fruit, no result, no substantiality. For example, Atisha in his commentary explains that emptiness, containing the three doors of liberation, means the emptiness of substantiality, of being by itself, of phenomena existing by themselves, and absence of characteristic. Without characteristic means all phenomena are free from specific and general entity, respectively. So generally in terms of entity and specific in terms of characteristic. So the absence of aspects and signs is the absence of substantiality of causes, which are seen as real and substantially existing according to the effect they produce. So all that being emptiness is without production nor cessation, and in that way ignorance and afflictions are not fundamentally stained, because emptiness is established as a substantial reality free from stains. And because they include causes and effects, because that point is about cause and effects of both afflicted phenomena and pure phenomena, meaning free from emotions. And because we can't find their substantiality, they are without aspects or signs. So those three are also about the samadhis, meaning wisdom free from all distractions that observes reality without wish. here it means two wishes. The first one to be free from faults, wrongs, and the wish of to be endowed with qualities. We want to be free from samsara. We want to be endowed with enlightenment qualities. But whether neither samsara nor enlightenment have substantial reality, and in that sense, the one who observes reality is beyond wishes about the fruit with hopes and expectations, because there's nothing substantially established. So in that sense, in this way, Atisha explains that the three doors of liberations are antidotes or remedies to our attachment to the view, the conduct, and the fruit. So emptiness is a remedy to the view that grasp a reality and a substantiality, and the door of aspects and signs is linked to conduct. So without birth, cessation, or stain, we saw that. So it's an antidote to attachment to the fruit, which is Buddhahood. And that brings us to the next part. So here the text reads: Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no matter, no feeling, no perception, no conditioning, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, and all, until the full, true and complete enlightenment. So here it's about all the phenomena with all the phenomena and emptiness. So he doesn't only say that in emptiness there is no emptiness. He would systematically negate all phenomena, especially of all categories of phenomena that are usually taught in the Buddhist Abhidharmas. So if you remember, he's talking to Shariputra, who is a hearer, a Shravaka. And so Abhidharmas are the special and specific teaching of the Shravaka vehicle, and that's the speciality. And also we think that Shariputra is specialized in that, and this is what we would think in that text. So here we have different classifications of the phenomena. So first of all, the classification of the five aggregates. So here the five aggregates are first enumerated. In emptiness, there is no matter, no feeling, no apperception, no conditioning, no consciousness. Then Avalokiteshvara goes to the negation of what we call the 12 sources of perception, which are ayatanas, 12 sources of perception. So first he enumerates the indriya, the senses, organs, so nor eye, ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. And then, so here we have the six senses with their respective objects. No appearance or visible form. So no sound, object of ear. No smell, object of nose. No taste, object of tongue. No touch, object of body. No phenomenon, object of the mental, the mind, the mental sense. So here in Abhidharma's eye, organs are presented like as being made of physical matter, but not only that, but also more subtle matter in the sense organs that are a support for generating their respective consciousness associated. So for consciousness to work, there need to be three conditions united according to Abhidharma. So the dominant condition, that is the indriya, the sensorial faculty that will work. The object of observation, the condition of the object of observation, meaning the object that consciousness is gonna know. And the third condition is the condition of what is immediately preceding. Saman Andarapratya, which is the Sanskrit term. Yeah, Temataki in Tibetan, which is the preceding instant of consciousness. So whatever moment of conscious, whatever it has to be there has to be a preceding instant of consciousness. This is like the preceding condition, which ensures a continuum, uninterrupted continuum of consciousness. The mental doesn't have sensorial or physical faculty. So the dominant condition is Yikiwanko Mahatindriya, which is a preceding moment of one of the six consciousnesses. So in that sense, the dominant condition and the preceding condition are the same for the mental consciousness. So the object of sensorial faculties, meaning the object of eye, vision. So the object corresponding to the visual consciousness are forms, colors, known by the eye or the vision. So the object of sound, sounds, taste, touch, and then the mental, and the mental have the other kind of perceptions. Where we can include all other kinds of feelings, like pleasant feelings and all. So in order to clarify the relationship between these three conditions, faculty, object, and consciousness that generate perceptions, there is also a list that we call the list of the 18 tattoos that come after the indriyas and their object, and it includes the 6 consciousnesses. So the 6 consciousnesses and the 12 sources all together make what we call the 18 tattoos. So here in the text we have so we've been until no phenomenon, so then there is no I constituent until no mental constituent. No mental constituent up to and including no mental consciousness constituent. So this is pointing to the 18 tattoos. So the constitution, or what Rinpoche translated here as constituent. So the I and its object, the form, the shape, and the A consciousness corresponding constitute the next constituent, ear, nose, and all. So the nose has a nose constituent. The ear has ear constituent. The tongue has the taste constituent is linked to the tongue consciousness. So each constituent is linked to one consciousness. So the body constituent is linked to the body consciousness or the touch consciousness. So then the mental constituent, or the mental element. So here we saw it was the condition, the preceding condition that makes it a continuity. So the object that is a phenomena constituent has the corresponding consciousness, which is the mental consciousness. So this is the list of the 18 tattoos. You can have it in the gateway to knowledge. So here Avalokiteshvara says all the parts of the co-produced phenomena. So he says there is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance until no aging and death up to and including no extinction of aging and death. So you remember we looked at those 12 links of interdependence. So avidya in Sanskrit are samskara karma. So those are conditioned by visual consciousness. We call it nama rupa No, sorry. Namarupa is the next one, the form constituent. And they condition the specific sources of perception. Then Indriya. Here in the 12 parts of dependent origination, it's called ayatanas. Then contact is sparsha, the perception. When perception happens, an object is perceived by the sense faculties, and it results in a feeling, vedana, that conditions the afflictive aspects, craving, envy, desire, and those will manifest as holding, or what we call upadana, and which also produce karma, volitional actions, that is here called existence of becoming parva, that result in birth, what we call gyati, and that conditions aging and death. So there is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance until no aging and death, up to and including no extinction of aging and death. So here it's presented at the same time the emerging order of the 12 parts of the dependent origination, the 12 links of dependent origination, and also the reverse process by which the 12 links, the 12 parts of dependent origination are extinguished. And then we proceed to the Four Noble Truths. So suffering, origin of suffering, cessation and path, those Four Noble Truths, those four truths are free of existence by itself. There is no suffering, no origin of suffering, no cessation of suffering, no path beyond cessation of suffering. And then finally, Avalokiteshvara turns to the mind that understands all those categories. And the result of that understanding, which is primordial wisdom that understands all those categories and their reality, that understands emptiness, that wisdom itself, that primordial wisdom is itself is free of being, of existence. So in emptiness there is no primordial wisdom, and there is no fruit of that primordial wisdom that will be obtention of an enlightenment. There is not that obtention, but there is not that it's non-obtention neither, because in emptiness there is no non-attainment neither. So there is no attainment, no non-attainment. So here we can see that the observation of emptiness, meaning understanding reality as it is, is to not be afflicted or affected by all those designations, categories that are somehow that are like artificial, constructed representations, conventions. Not any of those conventions can be observed in emptiness. Their being by itself can't be observed.
Certes,
So, of course, emptiness, realizing emptiness, or the progress on the path is about eliminating rebirth in inferior realms, bad karma and all. But it's not about obtaining another reality that would have any substantiality. It's not about that. So we shouldn't get confused here. Is on that affirmation of non-existence of things. So I think that point has been quite clarified beforehand.
on peut...
So we can make other descriptions, but essentially I think we covered the subject. So now if you have a few questions on that subject, please.
Bonjour Rinpoche.
Oui.
Good morning, Rinpoche. It's not really a question about what you just said, but more reacting about an answer you just gave before the break. You said there. You talked about the fact of developing loving kindness towards all sentient beings, and to not forget any of them, aiming to attain enlightenment. I feel it's a view that is quite selfish. It's like risky because we would generate loving kindness for a goal that is to reach enlightenment. That is a very interesting question, says Rinpoche. And this invites us to reflect on the meaning, on the true meaning of what we hear by Maitri. If Maitri is cultivated in a selfish way, then we don't cultivate Maitri, like truly. Meaning that we are in an egoistic attitude for me, for I. And we don't transcend, we don't go beyond the imperative of ego, and we lack Maitri for ourselves. Because we force ourselves to that imperative of ego. If I think that I'm going to love beings because it's only useful for myself, then I don't really love them. I don't really express Maitri if I do so. And at that moment, I'm not free from the affliction, I didn't really experience the quality of Maitri. The quality of Maitri is the mind that is free from all adversity and also from discriminations, preferences. In the universal Maitri makes no difference between me and others. There's nothing for me and not for others. It's a state of mind that is naturally peaceful. So in that understanding of Maitri, we can find a variety of shapes of manifestations. Maybe for some people, just for some people in a limited way, that time we would see a benefit for ourselves. But when we cultivate Maitri without discrimination for ourselves, for others, it's a quality that is expressed. At that time it's a quality that is expressed to everyone without discrimination. It's a mind that is free. It's a mind free from an affliction, harming affliction for us and for others. And that affliction, harmful affliction, is generated through the grasping of I. So in order to generate Maitri, we need to go beyond discrimination, understanding the absence of self, emptiness. That's the way the understanding of emptiness is really Maitri. Understanding that is really Maitri. And above that, and until there is a grasping of I, Maitri will be somehow limited.
Question which is related to the I. I hope it's not a too strong break. The question is, we have learned that there is no I or no ego. On the other hand, we experience like that. And my question is, to what does the consequences of our action is related then? So otherwise, or turn it in another way, say it in another way, from whom or from what does samsara know what I did yesterday? Oh, yeah.
So Rinpoche is just saying the question in French. So if there is no I, and if it's the case, how can I remember the past actions I did? If I say it in short, in brief, just to give the general problematic of the question. So to answer your question, your understanding here of emptiness is like you think emptiness as annihilating nothingness, the absence of existence of I is to discover that I that we usually think is there has no observable reality. But that time we shouldn't fall in the affirmation that I'm nothing, nothingness. There is a continuity, if I may say, of mind. A continuity which makes that I can remember past actions, and my past actions have a consequence on my present, and my today's behavior will have consequence in the future as well. So that causal continuity based on the I, the self-grasping, grasping of I, where we are imprisoned in the becoming of samsara, where we think there is an I, and even though there never was an I, that continuity is there. We can also turn your question in another way, meaning we could think that some people could think in Buddhism you think that there are rebirths, there are past lives, future life. If there is no I, who will take rebirth? Okay? So if we look well, if there was an I, there could be rebirth. There couldn't be rebirth. How could I rebirth? Take rebirth? If I is one, permanent or substantial, how could it change? If it was there, it couldn't change. If when we take birth, if so, when we would take birth, we would be, we could change. We couldn't change. For example, in some places in India, they think you are reborn in some social classes. For example, if you take birth at the summit as a Brahman, that time by birth you are a noble, a pure person. So, and that time, however you behave, whatever you do, you lie. I behave. If you behave in a negative way, I'm still a noble one because I'm substantially a noble one. But if I'm reborn at the dawn of the scale, I'm in essence a bad person. Whatever generous, good, nice I am, it doesn't change anything, because that time you think the I is bad in essence, and whatever we do, however we behave, nothing can change it. It excludes everything for any changement, any change. If I was existing, how could it take a rebirth? I is something that is substantially one and permanent. However, to take rebirth implies change, becoming a before, a middle, and after. The I, the being is eternal, doesn't know any change. So it is because there is no I that there is rebirth, and not because there needs an I to take rebirth. If I was existing, rebirth couldn't exist, couldn't take place. And also the souvenir of the past couldn't happen, no thought could be possible if I was existing, because it's one and permanent. So there is a continuity, but it's not characterized by the specificity of I to be one and permanent, but not finding in ourselves a reality that is one and permanent, in some ways excludes the eternalist position. But we shouldn't fall in the other extreme of nihilism, which is nothingness. We talk about the middle way that avoids the two extremes. So there is a continuity, and if we look at its substantiality, it's emptiness, and it manifests as a continuity because of the ego, the I grasping. So I'm sorry, it's already late. So we're gonna stop here for this morning and we will meet at 2:30. At 2:30. So see you. Thank you all.
Nam di tamchi sikpa nye toni nyepe ranam pamchin chega na che balap trupa sibe tso len ro wan ro war sho.